Okay. So, hi. Thanks for joining us on Rock's blog.
Thank you so much for having me, Sarah. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So, I just want to open up. Please introduce yourself and the film we're going to be talking about.
Sure. So I'm Ranw Aso-Rashid. I wrote, directed, and produced this film, The Silent Choice. I'm also chief executive of AR Studios, which is less than 2 years old, technically. We are shooting a feature documentary soon with an executive producer, BAFTA nominee Claire Richards. We are working on a slate for high-end television and some feature films as well. So we are pushing in that regard.
Amazing. That's a lot for such a young company.
Yeah. Oh, massively. Well, do you know what? I mean, I'm actually a full-time science teacher, and I have been for a while. I was actually head of department for a couple of years, took a break, and now I'm back in it. And I actually got involved in filmmaking because of my students. I taught in North London for 4 years, then I moved to South London for another 4 years, and I've had about 130 something students involved in my films, including from the London Screen Academy.
Okay.
My company, because of my teaching background, we have lots of partnerships with schools and sixth forms across London, um, and to maximize opportunities for young people to get involved in genre diverse projects. And that's naturally where a lot of the excitement comes from for me to actually develop these projects from scratch. We also own some good IP.
Yeah.
So we were quite active earlier this year at the European film market,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
we've had a pitch solicited by a major streamer and BBC Film for another project. So we are pushing as hard as we can.
Nice. Nice. And it's so encouraging. I know a lot of filmmakers I come across, they have a day job and then they have their filmmaking and there's got to be a passion there, hasn't there?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, do you know what? I mean, this for me, I think back to the films I watched as a child, some I would say maybe accidentally perhaps, like for example, Steven Spielberg's AI, artificial intelligence. I saw that
Yeah.
on TV as a child. I have never forgotten it since. And actually, films like that, that kind of existential, larger than life kind of storyline have influenced my kinds of stories. I mean, The Silent Choice was a very cinematic piece, and actually the passion for that particular film, well, for a number of my films, comes from the style of Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
Especially because actually with that film, a lot of the passion and enthusiasm for creating that kind of tense kind of storyline
Mm,
came from the opening scene of Inglourious Bastards on that French farm.
mm.
And it still influences me today. And I still draw inspiration from that for my future projects as well, when I need to.
Oh, nice. I mean, that you've already mentioned a couple of things that I want to talk about with the silent choice, but yeah, it's that sort of it's when there's so much in the subtext and the sort of undercurrent, and that is what we're actually focused on. And I think with the silent choice, you do that so well.
Well, do you know what? I have to credit the cast for that in particular because, obviously, as director, I have a vision, but the job is for everyone else around me to help create that vision and bring it to life. And actually, the script went through, I think, 14, 15 redrafts. And I remember when we confirmed the cast, I got the cast together with the script supervisor and we just interrogated every single page together. And I gave the cast as much ownership as possible of their characters. I've done my job now. I've created the characters. It's now over to them to make it their own. And they gave some really interesting insights, including on subtext, including how what the direction of the story can really be.
Hmm.
And I trust my actors. I trust my crew. The best idea has to win, and it might not always come from me, and that's fine because the story is the star, really.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I was quite proud of the subtext we were able to achieve. I think it developed my writing ability as well, actually.
Yeah. I mean, in writing this story, because you've got so much at play, there's toxic masculinity, there's coercive control, there's, a simple human story of love and longing, and there's so much in there.
Yeah.
Um, when you sort of started and you knew what you were gonna, broach, how did you manage to fit that all in?
Um, so I wanted to, so I had a conception. I conceived of the idea of creating a tense story before Christmas, and it was actually called Silent Choices. It was just a working title. I had always I thought about it after I shot the film before that, Whispers of Redemption. I thought I want to do something very different and not have any music in it either. I want to create a tense story where you may not necessarily know who the protagonist antagonist is. I mean, obviously we developed the story to a certain point, but I wanted to create a very different kind of story. And again, the inspiration for that came from that opening scene of Inglorious Bastards, where you have that, very. I mean, obviously Christopher Waltz's character is obviously a Nazi, but there's a certain kind of charm, demeanor that the character has. But then, of course, the mask slips eventually, and I want to kind of achieve that kind of effect, but in a more nuanced kind of way. I had early discussions about it with the executive producers. So I work with an incredible team of producers: Deborah Shepherd, Marcus Liversidge, um, Dustin Curtis Murphy, CEO of Kino Film Festival, and
Yeah, I
I
know.
had early discussions about how, the tone, about how I want to take this story in a different direction. Um, and actually, a very early idea we had was not, well, I had was I don't want any music in the film because I wanted to see how far could I stretch the idea of making it tense. How tense could I truly make it? I mean, obviously, the feedback we've had from audiences at different festivals is it's clearly very tense,
Mm.
and I just wanted to see how far I could stretch that. But in terms of fitting it all in, do you know something? I had the idea that the way the story, because obviously the whole thing is in a cafe. It's
Yeah,
in one location, right?
yeah.
And so it's like you can only do that kind of film for so long before people start to get disengaged.
Mm.
So I thought it would be good to, well, first and foremost, establish who the main character is, John. And then, of course, the key kind of tipping point for him is when he excuses himself from the table and goes into the
Goes
bathroom
to the
and is,
scream.
yeah, he's in like a pressure cooker because,
Mm.
I mean, I don't want to spoil it too much for people watching this, but, it's like life has been rewritten all around him without him there. And so, and then he returns from that. And then it's almost like I wanted him to just be on his own with um, uh, Callum and to see with the other characters just to see how that would go. I just wanted to keep pushing it further and further, really. But then the ending, the music in particular, I thought, and I don't know if I've gone beyond your question, but I really
No,
wanted
it
to sort
doesn't
of
matter.
make that
Carry on.
clear.
It's wonderful.
We got to about a week before completion of post production, as per schedule, and I was watching it and I thought, I feel like the story, it was picture locked, it was graded, all of the things. The Post House did a brilliant job on this film, a superb job. But I thought, I feel like it's missing something. And I thought it might be music. And my incredible composer, Lindsay Wright, um, in record time was able to score something truly outstanding. And that's the music you will have heard in the film. Um, and I had this idea because I think it was interesting. And I think this was a note from Matt Beveridge when we did our script reading, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong, but if he's watching, I hope I'm not wrong. Um, in the script reading, I think Matt had the idea, who plays Callum, that when the spoon falls on the floor and he makes that kind of throwaway comment, it runs in the family, doesn't it? That kind of
Yeah,
clumsiness.
clumsy.
Yeah. I think Matt had the idea of in using that line or including that line and using it to sort of throw the audience off potentially slightly. Go, hang on a second. What is the source of that? Mark. I mean, it's clearly a mark that shows some sign of abuse. And then I thought, well, with Lindsay, I said, Lindsay, can you craft something for the ending that is hopeful? So
Mm.
it completely contrasts with how the heaviness of the scene. And when he then turns that drawing over
Yeah.
and you see what's written on there and the way it hits with the music, I think it just elevated the story to an entirely different place. And I remember me as a viewer watching it going, you know, for John, it's time to go be a dad. That's kind of how it made me feel. And yeah, I mean, in terms of bringing it all together, I mean, obviously it wasn't just me. It was an incredible team of cast and crew who gave their notes, who had their ideas. You know, yeah,
I mean, yeah, there's so much there, and I did want to ask about the ending actually. So it's
yeah,
interesting you saying that you wanted to offer us some hope because I can often be drawn to things that are a bit bleaker in the end,
oh yeah,
especially with that kind of story and with everything you're dealing with. So no, I think, but I we do need hope. We do need that side of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, yeah. I mean, with someone like John, I mean, his daughter, doesn't like him clearly.
Doesn't know him.
Doesn't know him. It's like she's a different child as well.
Yeah.
The name and everything, and and yeah. And you know something, in my background in teaching, I think this is actually worth highlighting. A lot of my stories are inspired in some ways by, generically, by the challenges pastorally, the challenges that young people go through, especially teenagers in today's world, and the challenges they have, challenging home lives,
Mm.
without specifics. And I do try to represent those stories in a kind of respectful way. Um, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I can see that feeding in to a lot of the content. Right, I want to know about. So, as you said, it's just in a cafe, which, you have to work as a director to keep our interest. And you
yes.
very much do. Like, I was looking at it earlier, when I was watching it, your camera is busy.
Oh
We're,
my God.
we're shooting from there, we're shooting from that angle, we've got that POV, it's taking us all around
Yeah.
in the diff that's amplifying the story. How hard was that, to put into action and the production side of it?
You know what? I mean, we had an incredible crew. First AD, Top Terracin, DOP, Rory Akeliosal, Gaffer, Vincent Temio, Hui Zhang, production designer, Esme, who did the script supervising work. All of them did an incredible job. We had a very, very good team of people. We shot 40 slates on that day, and it was a
Okay,
1 day shoot.
a
And I
lot.
remember, and we actually shot it. I can tell you exactly when we shot it. It was the Sunday before I went to school, and we
Okay.
shot it in a very lovely cafe close to where I teach, where I used to teach. And in terms of organizing the whole thing, so that means working with the local authority. That meant, and also we were lucky because the cafe owners, we struck a very good deal with the owners to essentially hire out the whole space for the Sunday. And they had a side act. They had side access as well with extra parking in the back, and that really helped the crew because we
Mm.
had a lot of crew and a lot of kits. Um,
Yeah, there's a lot of practicalities to
oh
consider.
my God, yeah, and we shot with the Arri Alexa mini large format. First time for me to use the Arri camera, but again, we did do a couple of tech visits as well, so we mapped out the whole area. I mean, it was a whole thing. I mean, I really
Was
credit.
everything very tightly storyboarded?
Do you know what? No storyboards. I've
Okay.
never really used a storyboard. It's I don't know. I just unless for this film we've not done that. I have not actually done a storyboard yet. But no, no storyboarding. It was more like rehearsals. We do this, this, and this, uh, and we just go for it. Obviously, we have our shot list and all of the
Yeah.
things, but we're very flexible. We're very quick,
Yeah.
but brilliant.
And so what about the team, that you bring together as a director? You've spoken about them all being wonderful and adding so much.
Yeah.
How do you choose who's on your team?
When I was head of biology, before I became head of biology, and this is a bit of a long-winded answer, I'll try to keep it as concise as I can.
No worries.
I was trained by an incredible executive head teacher who I haven't heard from her in a while, but she's brilliant, an Ofsted inspector herself. And she taught me about leadership. In education, leadership, there are so many transferable skills from leadership in education, especially when you're managing staff and holding everyone to account and driving innovation that you can transfer to any industry. And there are things she taught me. I won't name her for obvious reasons, but there were things she taught me that I'll never forget. And there was one exercise she got us to do, which has always since influenced how I choose people, how I bring people together. She gave us this sheet that had a lot of different kind of virtues on it, integrity, respect, truth, teamwork, da 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 da. And she said, you've got 10 minutes to choose 20 words. It's like 100 and something words on this piece of paper. I chose 20. Then she said, right, take out 10, reduce it to five, then two, and then one. And the one word I stuck with, which is the kind of the non-negotiable word for me, value, is respect. And that suddenly put into perspective how I like to interact with people, but also how I like to, what kind of workplace culture I want to create and foster with around me. So early in my early days in filmmaking, one of my mentors, Deborah Shepherd, exec producer, helped me to find crew. Now, the way I would do that is I'd put my kind of head of department hat on, and I would always meet the potential heads of departments in person if I could meet them in person and just have a chat with them, have a coffee with them, not necessarily talk about the project, just get a feel for who they are, what are their values. Because already in my mind, I'm going, okay, I want to find someone who is obviously very competent at what they do, but someone who I know will be a very good fit for the team that I'm trying to craft. Now, I'm very thankful that 9.9 times out of 10, I've met wonderful people in the industry who I know would be great fit for the films I do. And I say that as someone who's pretty much been working with the same crew that's grown since 2019. So the Silent Choice crew, we pretty much knew each other already,
Nice.
and these are brilliant, brilliant people. And so that's what I do. I try to gauge what their values are. And also, like I said, I have students on my films as well, first paid jobs, mentorships, work experience, volunteering. Maybe they might bring their mum or dad with them to shadow. I've had that. And I always ask my heads of departments, well, what do you think about that? Are you open to helping the next generation? And they've always said yes.
Yeah.
And that's always a big plus for me is, having those kind of professionals who, obviously it's a job and they have, there's a certain standard that we need to maintain the film production to, but they're people who want to help foster talent amongst the next generation. And that's always been something that I look for. But apart from that, it's just, kindness, openness, the truth. And the thing is, I always say this to the HODs that I work with, just because I'm the director doesn't mean I'm right. I have a vision, but the vision might change. And it pretty much always has.
Yeah.
But it's because I trust the people around me to help with me to take those twists and turns. Yeah, and eventually you get to a point where, it's like what I always say to HODs when I'm, I don't want to say interviewing them because they'll know that's not really how it is. It's so simple and lovely when I talk to them. It's like when you're working with clay, the collaborative process where you kind of push on it and it kind of pushes back and that kind of informs the creative process. And those are not my words. That's producer Emma Thomas's words, who said that in an interview once. And I've like, yeah, that completely makes sense to me. And then of course I give them total freedom to create the team they need, to be brilliant, to work hard with them to make sure their budget is right.
Yeah.
Um, and for a film
They're
like
going
The
to know
Silent,
best for their team.
massively, massively, and also for The Silent Choice, the sound recordist Maciej Londo, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant sound recordist. He asked if he could get involved in post production in sound design. I said, absolutely, of course you can. Of course you can. I'm always open to professional development opportunities for my crew because I approach it as if I was in education. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
fostering talent so that
Yeah.
they can be better for
Yeah.
themselves. That's
Yeah.
the way I look
No,
at it.
no, it's a great ethos. So I want to talk a bit about the sort of look and feel of the silent
Mhm.
choice.
Yeah,
Because I know you said you were inspired a lot by Tarantino, but the story for me is very kind of social realism. We've got a bit of Ken Loach, Shane Meadows,
yeah.
but you've got the polish on it. So tell us about that decision and where you decided to go.
In terms of the visual look.
Yeah.
So I just wanted, so actually, DOP Rory, so Rory and I, we spoke early on because we spoke earlier about how I wanted the film to look, and I think I wanted the film to have a kind of, obviously I wanted the cafe's kind of atmosphere to be brought to life a bit, and obviously it's on a high street and a cafe,
Yeah.
and I wanted to be fairly quiet of a story in terms of the atmosphere. So that was on the sound front. On the visual front, I wanted the shots to be very much just on their faces most of the time to kind of make it feel a bit claustrophobic, especially when it's just John and Callum on their own.
Yeah.
Um, and you know what you mentioned Tarantino, and I'll just say so if you look at the opening scene, but not
Mm.
even the opening scene of Inglorious Bastards, but if you look at the the scene with Michael Fassbender where he gets caught when he's ordering the drink. It's halfway through. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you on that,
And then I'm
but
like,
it's
oh,
but
I
you know
haven't
what?
seen it recently.
Do you know what? It's an incredible scene, and it's right in the middle of the film where basically Michael Fassbender and his colleagues are dressed up as Nazis, but they're not. They are Americans.
Oh, okay. I know what bit you're referring
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he does that kind of thing, like the three glasses or something. He does that thing.
Yeah.
I forget what it
It's
was.
a signal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then the actual Nazi officer spots it and knows
Yeah.
that they're spies. And then you notice in that film again, you got those like two shots, you got shots of them, just three of them at the table, close-ups, medium, and then as the story gets more and more tense, those shots kind of push in more and more. That's what I wanted to achieve visually. And actually, I wasn't, but yeah, and actually, I was quite confident, if I'm honest. I was quite confident that that would create a tense, claustrophobic kind of like kind of feeling.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
'cause when you're really in someone's face, you've really got to feel everything that's going on.
oh yeah, especially when it's John and Callum just on their own, and you just have those shots on them like that. I
Yeah,
think, yeah, I think that's helped achieve the tension that I was looking for visually, anyway.
definitely. And then you've got the brilliant bit where they stand up and he's a lot taller.
Oh yeah,
Like that. And the
yeah.
sort of the way your camera angle is, I thought that was really clever.
Yeah. That was good. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, also, do you know what? I mean, there were also little things because obviously it's a very heavy story, but there were moments where we're rolling the camera, and I just said to one of the actors, I said, you know, the scene where the child suddenly reveals to us as the audience that her name is something else,
Yeah.
what her name actually is. Um, and the actor says "silly Lily" or something like that. That
Mhm.
was improvised, and because I remember I was thinking, do you know what? Let's have a little bit of levity, just a little bit, not too much, just a little teeny bit, because it's very very heavy. Just a bit of a bit of that. Yeah, little things like that as well.
Yeah.
Just to,
I mean, audiences pick up on those, they really will.
yeah,
So, talking about audiences, I know you recently screened at Sunrise Film Festival.
we did, and
Yeah.
Beeston and Romford, Wolverhampton, and Carmarthen Bay
Nice.
as well, the BAFTA qualifier. Yeah.
So, I'd love to know sort of what your experience is going to festivals and seeing it with an audience, because
Oh
for me,
my God.
it's a
Well,
key moment.
do you know what? So, Beeston Film Festival was my first festival experience for this film, and I loved it. That was really lovely, actually. It was a great way to meet the crew, meet
Yeah.
locals, local
Yeah.
talent in Nottingham as well, in Beeston area. Um, that was also my second time seeing it with a live audience, and this was also a packed audience. So I was very excited to see it with a packed audience, and I went with one of the members of the crew as well. So we, enjoyed the film together. Um, that was also the first time, yeah, the first time I took live questions from the audience. So that was my kind of first experience of the raw, kind of unfiltered ideas and thoughts of the audience. And I was very, very reassured when several people in the audience, when they were asking about the ending, they
Mm.
kind of got it. It was like it was a plea for help.
Yeah.
It was a plea for help from the woman. Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I go when I can, because
Cool.
obviously, working, being a teacher in the week does limit my availability somewhat. But no, I go when I can. But I really love, what I love is getting feedback from the programmers as well. It's not just the audiences, of course, we're all in the audience in a way, but what I love is, like, for example, if I could just say for Brighton Rocks, I don't know who it was who emailed me months ago, but said that it was very well regarded, the film, before selection.
Yeah.
I really appreciated that because everyone put so much of their heart and soul and tears into this film. Though that kind of feedback really, it's fuel for the crew. It really is for the crew and the actors to go, the work is brilliant. So
Yeah.
I would say overall, that's how I feel about it. It's wonderful for the cast and crew.
Yeah. No, I mean, so much love, work, passion, blood, sweat, and tears. That's what goes into filmmaking.
Oh my God, massively. Um, when we shot that film, I mean, we shot it in a day, 40 slates. But that really is thanks to Top Tarrison, the first AD. He is a general on set, and he's brilliant. If you walked on the set, you think he was the director in a way, because I'm in the corner with the actors, but he's the one who's going around keeping everything moving, and you've got to have that kind of crew with any kind of film if you can. And I've always said this, and I'll keep saying it. It's the cast and the crew who really deserve, the vast majority of the recognition for this film because of the work they put into it. It is
Yeah.
quite incredible.
Yeah. That does shine through, and programmers can see that, and
Yeah,
audiences will be able to see that. And
massively.
that sort of feeds in quite nicely. So my final question, I always sort of ask
Yes.
people, what do you hope for the film?
Well, it's qualified for the BIFA Awards this year, so we're going to submit
Brilliant.
it whenever not
Days
applications
open.
open
Yeah.
next month, I think in June.
Yeah, it's very soon.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Um, if a Biff of voter is watching, please consider it. We're also one selection away from being qualified for BAFTA next year, so that's very exciting as well. Um, it's still got nearly 40 more film festivals that
Yeah.
are still considering it, so there's so much more left in terms of its journey. And I mean, what I mean, all I really hope for ultimately for this film is as many people get to watch it,
Mhm.
as many people get to enjoy it. And, I would like, I mean, we are hoping that it will get online on channels and get out there distribution. In terms of distribution, we haven't actually announced this yet because it's not yet official, but it has been confirmed in writing. Shorts TV are going to acquire the film for Prime globally, UK, US, Europe, Asia, and Minute Shorts hopefully will take it as well. We will see. Um,
Amazing.
yeah, so that's what I kind of hope for, really, just to maximize exposure for the cast and
Yeah.
crew, just to
Yeah.
get them out there in terms of their capabilities, really.
Yeah. You've got a good plan in place.
Yeah, I think so. No, I think so. It was a wonderful experience making that film, and that helped prepare me for the film after that in
Yeah.
Greece.
I know, because then it's just what's next? What's
Oh
next?
my goodness! Oh my goodness! Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for delving into things. And I sort of didn't want to ruin too many things. So there's still lots
my
of
pleasure.
intrigue for people who are going to see it.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you.
Brilliant. And audiences can come watch it at Brighton Rocks. I'll put all of the
Yes.
details in the interview post so people know when to catch it.
Wonderful. Sarah, thank you.
No, thank you. This has been a joy. Lovely Friday night.